Hey up! Just a quickie before we get started on today's video. A reminder really that this 6-part series, I've really broken it down into 6 pieces, each of which would probably not take as long in reality. So for example, we're talking pencils today and pencil selection. Normally I don't go to these lengths before every page. I just wanted to stress that. I'll, pick a page and I decide what pencils I want and I pick my colours to match. And it's very straightforward. I'm breaking it down into a lot more detail for this series, just to show you how lengthy the process can be if you really want to get into it. So I hope you understand that anyway. Don't think I do this before every page, because I don't. I hope you enjoy it anyway. And this little bit of colouring, look, showing you some colouring just while I'm doing this voiceover. Right, let's get to the video. Hey up! Happy Wednesday. And welcome back to part 3 of 6 of my Hanna Karlzon Colour With Me, where I'm inviting you to colour a page in grains of gold. I'll just give you a quick reminder. This page is in grains of gold or seasons. My copy is grains of gold. And in part 2 we completed our background that we planned for in part 1. So part 3 is thinking about what media or what coloured pencils we're going to use to colour in the main part of the illustration. So that's what I'm doing today. I've already, this is something else that I'll just touch on in a second. I've already got my pencils out and I've had a little look through them. And I've swatched some what I think are matches to the palette that we're going to use, which is, I'll pop on screen now. The great news is my lovely husband and I were in bed having a nice lay-in day before yesterday. I mean, that is good news that I was in bed with my husband having a nice lie-in. But we were talking about, he was Googling on his phone motorcycle parts and I were looking at, I wanted to find a website that stocked both Holbein's and Caran d'Ache Luminance in open stock, because I fancied maybe trying a couple of each pencil out, maybe like 3 greens I could make use of in colouring pages, and then decide which way I wanted to go. So we were discussing his motorcycle parts and I were discussing my pencils, and then shortly after he shot out of bed he said, I'm off out on bike, on his motorbike, and he went out and he came back wearing a brand new pair of motorcycle jeans, which is what he was Googling. And he handed me his blue jeans that he'd taken off its shop where he'd bought his motorcycle jeans from. So he says, here, put them in washer for us. And he gave me his package of jeans in this really odd way, and I looked at them and I opened them up, and inside was, drum roll please, inside was these. So I've been testing them out. Here, this is what this is. So I now have a third set of pencils that I'm going to try with our page in mind. He is the absolute best, is my husband. Literally a conversation a couple of hours later he turns up with these. And what he'd done was, he'd Googled on Facebook Marketplace for these pencils, because he has, as I always say to you, I have a great interest in his hobbies, which is, his motorcycling and things like that. And he has a great interest in mine. We make sure we show interest in each other's hobbies and support each other like that. So he had a quick Google on Facebook Marketplace and he saw these going for 200 quid in the next village to us. The woman said she had been given a duplicate gift. My husband thinks they might have fallen off back of a lorry, if you know what I mean. But either way, I took a look, he thought they looked kosher, so we offered her 150 quid and she took it. So 150 quid through Facebook Marketplace, and I've got a set of these which I don't think you can get for less than 320 from anywhere at the moment. So I'm delighted. I'm so glad that lady got a duplicate gift for her birthday or whatever it was, because now I've ended up with these and I'm excitedly trying them out. So they are included in my little video today because I now have Polychromos, Chromaflow and Luminance to choose from. So that's great. Yeah, thanks to my husband. I'm absolutely loving, by the way, how this Luminance is working out on this page that I'm doing with my buddy Shelley. So yeah, I'm excited. So I will now move this to one side and we'll get on with what we're here for today. So my husband's been at home with me today, so I have cracked on. I've not messed about. I've done some preparation offline, so I don't have to spend as much time filming. So basically, I've swatched my 3 sets of pencils and chosen some colours. I thought I would kind of go through my thoughts. So this is the Polychromos. These, I've done this for each set of pencils, but this, I'm hoping these are in shot. This is the main matches for those squares on that. I've got a paper copy here, but I haven't used my paper copy because it won't be, my printer's not good enough quality. So, but I'll show you it anyway. But I've matched to my phone, which is another reason that I didn't film any of that matching of the colours, because I use my phone to film on. And we're looking at the palette on my phone. Everybody's palettes will be slightly different, even if they're using this palette, because we might have his brightness turned up to a different level on our phones. I had an iPhone for a long time and my husband had a Samsung, and the same photographs look totally different on each phone, so you know how it is. So yeah, these are what I thought were good matches for the Polychromos. I will put everything in the description, but just to give you an idea, I do find this really hard. And again, don't look at it here on this bit of paper, look at it on screen. I'll get rid of this and we'll just keep it on screen. So these are my Polychromos matches, or as near as I think I can get. What these are the extended colours in that palette. So if you look at the foliage, let's move this to one side. If you look at the foliage on that palette, the inspiration picture, and you really zoom in, you see lots of lovely blues and more tealy greens, and then some quite limey greens. You also see on that foliage towards the top, in the purple and pink area, you see some lovely oranges and like burnt siennas, maybe some mango-y colours amongst those purple leaves. So there is far more colour within the inspiration picture than is in those squares. Those squares are created from the inspiration image, and we don't know who's done that. I just found it on Google, and we don't know how accurate it is in terms of how the squares match the image at the back, but it's still a lovely palette, and I like the whole palette. So I thought I'd see what other colours I might have in my Polychromos to match them. I don't know whether I would use them, in all honesty, but I wanted to see if I wanted to, how good the match was. I also don't think this is a colour that I'll probably use, except to maybe show some highlight. But I don't think it'll feature largely in this picture. So when you take that out, that's probably going to be, and remembering this is more of a peachy colour that I wanted really to match that palette. That's probably going to be mainly what I'm working with down here. This is some skin colour. I wanted to see what Polychromos offered in the way of maybe a skin colour. The witch can have any colour skin, can't she? Maybe green, maybe something a bit more purpley or grey. Maybe she looks a bit beaten and weather-worn. I don't know. I don't mean beaten with your fist. I just mean, you know, worn down by witch life. I'm waffling now. But yeah, that's my main palette in the Polychromos. I'll put these numbers up for you, but like I say, you'll probably be matching slightly different, however the picture appears on your phone. So they're my polys. Now, Polychromos are predominantly oil-based, and I love them because I think I'm most comfortable with a nice firm tip. to my pencil, a nice firm nib. You never get any crumble with Polychromos. I love that about them. This isn't the best paper, by the way. This is the back of some photo paper from the printer. But you never get any crumble or fallout. None of that, like, you know, and brushing stuff across your page. I love Polychromos for that. They're excellent for doing fine hair work, and this isn't even super sharp. And I know you can get this from your wax, predominantly wax-based pencils. I know all pencils have a bit of oil and wax and other stuff in, but I'm just talking about the main. You know, these are hard oil-based pencils, and I love them. And it's kind of what I'm most used to at this point in my colouring journey. So I do like Polychromos, and when we're thinking about, where's my book gone? And when we're thinking about our individual pages, something I have to think about is, because I've collaged, I think Polychromos will be good to get in, because they retain a nice sharp tip. They'll be good to get in where I've cut the paper, because I think with a more softer, buttery, waxy pencil, that might prove a little bit difficult in some of these areas. So that's something I have to think about. But yes, so that's my poly matches. If we move along to the Chromaflows, what I found was the Chromaflows, and I think, how many is there? Yeah, 150, so there's bound to be a little bit more choice. I felt there were quite a lot of options in Chromaflows. I think this is butterscotch. The numbers are there anyway. The numbers are correct. For that peachy colour, that's not a bad match. This is that funny violet come periwinkle cornflowery blue type colour. There's a pretty good match. The Chromaflows contain some nice muted tones, actually. That being one of them. The green, it's a funny green, that green on the palette. It's not so much an earthy green. It's quite a bright green, but a dark version, if that makes sense. So that's the best I could find in the Polychromos. I think that's peacock blue. And then we had some options. I think this is the darkest purple on that palette. And then this is a colour called dark purple, which I just think would be good used instead of a black. So I thought I'd pop that in there. This is then that mid purpley colour, and this is that more rosy pinky colour towards the bottom of the palette. And then I think, I don't know what that is. And then I think I was looking at skin tones. Oh yes, I do know what this is. Chromaflow do a nice selection of these muted, kind of muted mauve tones and rosy tones. So that's three that I thought, if I didn't want to give a healthy looking skin, I could maybe use some of these on a skin. So that's what those were. But yeah, that's likely going to be my palette for the Chromaflows if I decide to go with those. Do you know the reason I were looking at Holbein's? I think I couldn't really make my mind up whether Holbein's are marketed as oil or wax or a little bit of some other stuff with some magic put in for good measure. But I've always been curious about them, but I was mainly thinking about the Luminance, because I do love the Chromaflows. But there's some books where I just, there's some pages when I've used Chromaflows and I've really, really enjoyed them, and I love the colour range. And I kind of love Derwent as a brand. It's a British brand and I'm a British girl, so just all that. I remember using Derwent products as a kid and stuff like that. So for those reasons, I like the brand. And I do like my Chromaflows, but I just didn't feel like, I was thinking about Prismacolors. I really wanted to get some Prismacolors to understand what you guys are experiencing when you talk about butteriness. And the Chromaflows are a lot more buttery than the Polychromos, but I still felt maybe I'm missing out. So my hunt for extra pencils and new pencils started with thinking about getting some Prismacolors. And if they'd have reduced the price, on Prime Day, I would have bought Prismacolors. I had them in my basket, but they didn't. They put the price up by £8. So not only did the price not go down any, it actually went up. So I didn't bother with Prismacolors. But I got thinking about maybe just trying a few open stock Luminance, as I said. And this is because I really wanted to experience, I feel like with the Polychromos, I've got the best that there is out there for a predominantly oil-based pencil, and I couldn't be happier with them. And I chose Chromaflow as my wax-based pencil, and I've been happy with them, but I haven't been as happy as I am with my Polychromos. And it's not just because one's oil and one's mainly wax. I were missing that feeling with Chromaflows. I enjoy them, and I will definitely be using them plenty because I think they're perfect pencils for colouring pages. In terms of the cost of them, I think they're in the same budget as Prismacolors, and from everything everybody says, they're a really good match to the Prismacolor pencil. People say the only difference is the Chromaflow pencil barrel, you know, and the pencil itself is better quality than the Prismacolor, because, you know, the Prismacolors are known for being a bit less quality, a bit, you know, they get a bit broke, the cord's not always running through the centre. So the Chromaflows are a fantastic pencil, don't get me wrong, but I wanted that. I wanted to feel what the best was. My husband wouldn't have bought me them Luminance at full price, absolutely not. It's only because it was such a bargain that I've ended up getting them, but I'm glad I have. That's my Chromaflow palette, and then this is my Luminance. Now the Luminance colours, I was surprised. I feel like, you know, they could make 150 set or 120 set, and I think there's some gaps to be filled. This is actually, if you're probably aware of Colour with Claire, but she does some fantastic stuff for free for people, you know. She resorts swatch sheets into colour families, and, you know, everybody sees colour different. So, you know, Colour with Claire does it. She looks at the undertones of the colours and she puts them into what she feels is the best colour family. Everybody's different, and she says herself, it doesn't mean that that's the correct family for that colour to go in. It's just what she thinks. And she does these sheets blank, so you can swatch your new pencils. I was looking for a swatch sheet because the Luminance pencils, although they're over 400 quid retail price, don't come with a swatch sheet. So you can download one off the Caran d'Ache website, but I thought I'd try Colour with Claire's, so I've done that. But I do feel like, even just matching for this palette today, I do feel like there's some colours that could be added to this collection, but in the same vein they've got some beautiful colours that I don't have in my other pencil collections. So I'm really happy I've got it. I think I've got the best of all worlds now. Such a lucky girl. And I know it, so don't worry about that. I do know. So yes, this is my Luminance palette matching. I kind of like it. I do. This is the best match for that peachy colour, I feel. This is lovely. It's clearly more on the, you know, lilac-y purpley side, lavender side. This green's a little bit too bright, I felt. But just as with the others, I've pulled out some of those other colours in the background as well. This isn't a bad match for that peachy colour down here. I was looking to see if they had any skin colours. They do have this lovely... In fact, where is that? I thought I'd pulled this pencil. 10% burnt sienna. That's a nice colour, isn't it, for skin if you were using it lightly in the blushing areas. There, my palette matches for the Luminance. And I think I should try, and just see how they feel on the paper as well. These here are just my Derwent set of colour softs. I think they were sold, I bought these years ago when I thought I might start drawing my family members, but I never got round to it. But now I use them for anywhere I have skin. So in Hanna Karlzon pages, there's often, you know, ladies. So I've been using them for skin. and that's the colour range you get with them. And I like them, and I would like to make sure that they get used, so I may use these for the witch's skin, but that's the colours you get in there. They're Derwent Colour Soft. So let's just see how a couple of Polychromos feel in this book. Polychromos, you'll know if you use oil-based pencils. I think Brute Funers are oil-based as well, aren't they? Mainly oil-based. Keep having to correct myself, saying predominantly oil-based, because somebody always corrects you, don't they, online, and goes, "Oh, all pencils contain oil and all pencils contain wax." Yeah, we know. We know. We're just talking about the main quality of the pencil, and everybody knows that there's a heavy amount of oil in the makeup of Polychromos, just as there's a heavy amount of wax in Prismacolors, for example. So yeah, with your oil pencil, sorry I went off on a tangent there, but I hate it when folks correct you on a bit, and you know, something that's, we all know, don't we? If you're in this colouring game for so long, you know this, don't you? But you can't, you know, you don't think to say it at every opportunity. So when I say oil pencil, I obviously know it's got some wax in and some other stuffs. God only knows what they're putting in. But yeah, sorry, I'm going off on one there, wasn't I have to say, that's doesn't happen to me on YouTube. Do you know where that happens? Facebook. God blimey, Facebook is what I'm used to. Facebook is what I've always used as my social media until very recently, when I've started using Instagram and now YouTube. And I can't tell you how differently I find those platforms now, as and even more so as a content creator. I don't know, do you know there's a wonderful group on Facebook, Chromatic Collective, that I'm part of, and it's run by two amazing people, Derek and Adrienne, and they're so welcoming. They basically just set the group up for people, like-minded people, to exist within that space and just look for buddy colours and set up group buddy colours. It's lovely, and they're so chilled, laid back. And Adrienne, and Derek have always been, since I started my YouTube channel, have been very, "Oh yeah, feel free to share any of your tutorials, Jo." Just lovely human beings, acting like we're proper friends. Not acting, but do you know what I mean? Treating me like a mate in there. Whereas I found some Facebook groups that I were in before I were creating content, who, you know, treated me lovely. As soon as they realised I were creating content, the mood changed, and I don't know, that's only happened on Facebook. I said, I don't know whether you've seen that video I did about chaos colouring, and I was so chuffed with myself. I shared it in one, not Chromatic Collective, in another group. I shared my picture, and I said in my blurb on my post, I said, "Oh, I was so proud of myself for putting my big girl pants on and doing this. I even filmed it from my channel." And that's as much as I mentioned my channel. And they messaged me directly and asked me not to use their group to promote my channel. And I was right upset, because I thought, you've got me so wrong. Do you know what I mean? You've got me so wrong. And I felt like as soon as I started creating content, it didn't matter that I'd been a nice member of the group before. Do you know, it just, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but yeah, that was such a shame. But I weren't using their group to promote my channel. I was just saying, I was so proud of myself. I even filmed it and put it on my channel. I didn't then say click this link to go see, because I know it's not allowed self-promotion. But yeah, Facebook groups, apart from Chromatic Collective, all the other ones are very anti self-promotion, and they will class anything. I got a post removed from a group because I went on and I asked for buddies when I first started colouring. I said, if anybody'd like to buddy with me, just let me know. And because I was asking somebody to get in touch with me, effectively, I was promoting myself, and they took my post down. So I've found Facebook, although it's always been my preferred platform, I found it quite unfriendly as a content creator. And the weird thing is Instagram and YouTube couldn't be more different. They actually realise, well, you know, if people don't create content, what are we scrolling through? So it's as if that they welcome it on Instagram and YouTube, which is lovely. But yeah, not all you know, I'm still a fan of Facebook. It's what I know best. But I have found it a funny place to be as a colourist and particularly as a content creator. It's very, they encourage us to like big up all the, you know, the people who make these books. And yes, we should big up the illustrators. But there's absolutely zero tolerance for promoting yourself. So you know, you can't even say, oh, there's more pictures like that on my Instagram if you like it. You know, you just can't even say it. And I'm not one for collecting numbers and growth in that respect. I just wanted to make more friends. But yeah, I felt like I'd been totally misunderstood in that group. So thank you, Adrian and Derek, for always understanding me. And knowing that if you treat somebody as an adult, they won't spam your page with loads of self-promotion. It doesn't really need spelling out at every opportunity. Oh, I'm a bit sour today, aren't I? A bit sourpuss. Right, okay, so I like the way my Polychromos feel. Let's move on. Oh, let's move on from that negativity. I might cut that bit out. Right, let's have a go. So this is Chromaflow now. So as I was saying with Polychromos, well, I never got round to saying it, did I? Because I went off on a tangent. But yeah, with the oil-based pencils, you have to build up in layers, and as you guys will know, because I bet the majority of you have Prismacolors. Should have sharpened these, by the way. As you will know, you can be a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Vigorous, I would say. Yeah, you can be a lot more vigorous with wax pencils, can't you? You know, and really get them smushed together. I'm just learning. Ooh. Somebody always says to me as well, hold your pencil further down barrel. I know. If you want a light touch, we shade like this. But I can't help myself. I've always been a bit heavy-handed. I'm working on it. Using wax helps me actually, because you do sharpen your pencils and then very quickly break them, don't you, if you're not careful. Oh, I've just thought on, I've got some of these, and as you can tell, I've never used it. That's a burnisher. I'm sure I've got some blenders here. I got in a multi-pack, a blender. So does this blend? Does the Derwent blender blend? Aye, it's not bad. Yeah, I don't mind Chromaflows on this paper either. I don't mind them at all, actually. Yes, they feel okay. And lastly, I will try. Should we go for that one and that one? And this is my Luminance, which I have to say already, just from doing that picture that I showed you earlier, that I'm halfway through, my little buddy with Shelley. I already love these pencils, and I'm so glad he did what he did. He loves surprising me, does my husband. He gets a massive buzz out of surprising me, his grandkids, whatever, you know, his daughters. He gets a massive buzz out of surprising folk. So I'm very lucky But yeah, I'm really glad he got me these because I love them now. And there is a difference between these and Chromaflows. It's not just about light fastness, which doesn't, you know, that doesn't, light fastness don't really affect me because I'm not creating art for, you know, to hang on walls. And remember, I'm not teaching you anything here. This isn't necessarily how to use your pencils, your prism, any wax-based ones. I'm learning about the wax-based pencils. I'm used to Polychromos, so and I think Luminance are predominantly wax, although they don't really, I don't think they really stay either way. Might be a secret third ingredient that has the majority, who knows. But I do love them. They feel okay. Do you know what? They feel, in Fairy Tales and Folklore, where I'm using them, they feel a lot more buttery, I think, than on this page here, which is a surprise because I thought it were more or less the same paper, unless it's my imagination. But yeah, and then you get a little blender, which I've already cracked into 3. Don't matter because it's just like you can sharpen little bits and stick them in an extender. But yeah, I dropped this on floor and it shattered into 3 pieces. So this is my Caran d'Ache full blender. And all this does really is moves the pigment about a little bit and pushes it into any areas, you know, any tooth in the paper that hasn't taken the colour yet. But you can, I've already noticed in my practice, in my page that I'm using them on for the first time, I've already noticed you can, if you press too hard, it will just shave the pigment off the paper as well. It does take, with the polys, going back to those for a second, I can't remember which 2 colours I use now, is it them 2? It does take more layers, and I think that shows it with a wax-based pencil. If you're one of these people who's fairly new to coloured pencils, most people, you know, this is like teaching them to suck eggs. But, you know, when you were starting out, you don't know everything, do you? So this is the difference. It takes a little bit more time to build up colour with Polychromos, because the core is harder and not as buttery and crumbly. But you can get there, it just takes a while longer. I think the danger is if you press too hard too soon with Polychromos, you essentially end up burnishing. And I've noticed with the Luminance, even after I've used that blender and that's pretty much burnished, I can go on top with the Luminance again. But with Polychromos, I find once you've burnished or blended, you know, with a firm light coloured pencil or with a burnisher or a blender, I find I can't then go over it if I want to, so it has to be the absolute last thing I do. But yeah, you can get, you know, more depth of colour, you just have to use more layers. But I love the Polychromos. And I think, I mean, what I need to explain to you, just in case you think I've gone mad, is I don't go through this before every page. I'm just doing it this once to show you how you can choose between pencils for a page. But ordinarily I'll approach a page and I might already know which one of my pencils suits that paper in that book. Or I'll just be like, more often than not, if I'm being honest, because I'm fairly new to colouring, I don't have more than 1 page coloured in a lot of my different books. So I'll just pick a page I want to do, and I'll be like, oh, what do I fancy doing it in? Oh, I haven't used my Chromaflow for 2 pages, so I'm going to use them for this page. Or if I've just done a page of Polychromos, I'll probably not use them on the next page. Editing Joe here. As I was editing, I noticed the ice cream van noise in the background, so apologies for that. But then it got me thinking, do you guys have an ice cream van where you live in your country? Mine stops outside my house every day around 5 p.m. in the summer months. Well, till about maybe end of this month, I think they'll probably stop. But yeah, do you guys have ice cream vans? That's, if I'm honest, that's how I choose my pencils. But because I'm sharing the process with you, I just wanted to show you again what the process can be at its lengthiest if you want to be really, really, you know, in depth. I love that. But like I said, I think because this page, for me, I've got to think about how I'm going to get into these nooks and crannies and it not, you know, if I push my buttery wax pencil into this corner here, is this little bit of, you know, paper going to crumble my pencil more? I just think for this page now, unfortunately, it's not really a decision I'm making based on colour, is it? Which is what this video was supposed to be about. I'm happy enough that the choice I have isn't so dissimilar that I can now look to other qualities of the pencil to make my decision. And because I've used collage in this way, I'm going to choose my polys because I want a nice sharp point that will retain for a good long time to get into these little corners that I've cut paper. So that is my choice. I am going to go with the polys as shown there. Don't think I'll keep these pencils pulled, but that's going to be my main palette, and I will use, if I've got darker shades of these colours or lighter ones, what I generally do is I'll look for the ideal colour and then I'll look for two pencils, one either side, in terms of value, in terms of, you know, how dark or light the shade is for that colour, and then I'll have 3 pencils matching every palette colour, if that makes sense. Sometimes you don't always need to do that. You can just use a lighter hand to go lighter and more layers to go darker, can't you? But I often like to use, if I'm using green, I love to shade with that in the Polychromos there's a dark indigo, is it? And I love to shade, dark shade over a green like that with that dark indigo, you know, instead of a grey or a black. And similarly, people, you can Google and look on YouTube for more information on complementary colours and analogous colours to shade in your colouring pages. But you'll just find you pick up habits, and I love a navy blue to shade in on my leaves on greens like this, and I like a blue when I'm using pinks as well, so I'll put a nice deep blue into a corner. So I love the depth. This is with my Luminance. I love the depth of colour I've got here. I mean, that's a fairly obvious choice, isn't it? But that's actually a very dark navy blue, a very dark indigo that's in there. And similarly, it's quite a dark colour that's in there. I think it's more blue toned than anything that's right in the corners here. But yeah, you can, I love these leaves, by the way. It's the first time I've tried that. Because you do get, in I like my gardening, and you do get a lot of green and purple foliage together, so I thought I'd try that. But yes, I love a dark blue. I love dark colours. That's what I think I'm going to go with, those pencils. I'll keep those out, but I don't think there's not much to that illustration, is there? We've got a witch, a cat, some pumpkins and some foliage. So I don't think I will use these extra colours that are featured in the background of that palette inspiration, but I'll keep them out just in case. It's interesting, isn't it? When you look at it, you won't think that you had these bright colours in that palette, but you do. It depends how far you want to go with your colour selection. I am really waffling now, so this was always going to be a short video. I'm just pulling my pencils to use at the weekend. Friday's video, I'll be straight in to colouring it, and that will be more of a traditional colour with me, or colour along with me if you like. I'll be using the pencils I've chosen today. Those will be listed in the description. And yeah, we're just going to get through as much of that colouring as we can in an hour or two, or however long that video is, and we'll finish that off in part 5. It will be next Wednesday, finish off the colouring then. So I've got in every set of pencils here, I hope I haven't mixed them up too much, I have, so they're my main Luminance, for example. They're the ones, they're the ones that match my main palette, them ones. And then these are those extra ones. So I have a little tray at the side of me. I'd be interested to know what you guys use to stop your pencils rolling off your table. But I use this, and it's the bottom of a little vegetable seed tray. I've got a bit of kitchen roll in, and it's got a few ridges in the bottom. And I separate my pencils into those ridges, and it just sits perfectly outside of me like that. So I love that. These are the pencils I'm using on that Fairy Tales and Folklore page. Right, I've got my least favourite job now. I need to put some pencils back. So my Luminance and my Chromaflow are going to go back in their boxes. Although there would have been equally good choices, I would have used any of them in this book and on this page. I just need that sharper point this time. The good old Polys are my pencil of choice. Right, see you in part 4, which will be uploaded Friday evening sometime. So ta-ra for now.